When we recreate an HTML layout, it's important to get a bird's eye view of the different components that make that layout. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use an extension I've installed called Awesome Screenshot and Screen Recorder, and we're only going to recreate the top section of this layout. So I'll go to Capture here and specify the selected area. So I'm just going to try to highlight most of this page, most of the top section of the page here. I'm just going to drag this out a little bit more until we get down here, and let's just end it right there. Okay, now let's capture it, and in a second here it's going to generate a new image for us with this layout on it. Alright, this can take a little bit of time depending on your computer speed, but here we go. So we've got this image of the layout, and I'm just going to attempt to outline the different sections of that layout. We're going to look at it as if each one of these elements is, or these containers are essentially rows. So I'm going to grab this rectangle tool and I'm going to change the color here. Purple will probably blend in too much with the page, so I'm going to pick something really obvious like this red. And I'm just going to drag a box around the first big block of content that I see on the page. You can kind of see that there's a little bit of a border down here at the bottom of this picture. So I'm going to drag a rectangle from up here all the way down to where that faint border is. And that's kind of like the top section of content. If I scroll down a little bit, you can see there's definitely another section of content that's going to hold all of these boxes as well. So if I roughly do something like this, let's just outline that whole row. Okay, and then the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to come in and break those rows down even more. So right now I've just got these big blocks of content, but I want to get a little bit more granular. And how granular you get is going to depend on how deep you want to go before you start developing your HTML and CSS. But we're going to go pretty in depth here since there's not too much stuff on this page. So the first thing that I notice is that there's this top row of content, and this is essentially a header element is the way that I'm visualizing this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag a rectangle around this header element here all the way around. Okay. And then the next big block of content that I see is essentially a row underneath this that contains all of this information. So I'll just drag a rectangle around here. Okay. And then if we want to break down the section below, this is pretty easy to do because we can already see that there are these 3 columns happening. So I'm just going to outline each one of those columns. Whoops, I messed that up. Let me redo that. Outline it from here. And then finally we got the 3rd column here. Okay. And now if I want to go deeper on this, I can start doing things element by element. So up here in the header row, I see that I've got a bunch of different things. So let me change my color again. We'll go with yellow. That should be pretty obvious. And I'm just going to outline the different things that I see. So I see this. And then I also see that there's a row of navigation links as well. So I'm just going to outline this here. And then finally over on the right hand side I see there's sort of another block of content, which is these 2 things. Okay, and then later we can break those down further. Now let's look down into this section here, and the next big block of content I'm seeing is this text right here. Okay, and then after that we've got this little toggle track, and then I've got this element here, just looks like it might just be a paragraph element. And then finally I've got these 2 things, so there is a button and a link that goes right next to it. And we're sticking with yellow here, so I'm going to come down here and just outline the different sections of these columns. So at the top here we can see that we've got this element. some text, and then we've got an image underneath that. Then we've got a paragraph. Whoops, let me try to redo that. Looks like a paragraph that's centered. Then I've got a button, and then finally we've got a Discover Features link right there. I'm not going to do the same thing on the other three because the process would be identical and they would be outlined the same way. Okay, so let's go up and let's change our color one more time. So instead of yellow, I'm just going to switch it to brown in this case, and I'm just going to break things down a little bit further. So I've got a link here, I've got a link here, 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 and then if I want to break down the right side, then I've got this login link and a button as well. Okay. If we come down to this section, we've almost got things down to the atomic level, but there are a couple more things that we can break down. So we can say, hey, this button is its own element, and then this link is also its own element here. And then if I come down here to try to break this down even further, well, there's not really much else we can do here. We've already broken this down to the element level, so it's as far as we can go. So with this outline in place, it's going to make generating my HTML and my CSS a lot easier because I know how all of those puzzle pieces fit together.